Yes, in this short video I just want to show you how you can use getline, as it's one of the most important functions that you can use to get values or to get data from the file or from any stream. So in this one, before we actually look at how we can get our data from the file stream, we are going to demonstrate using string stream. So this stream is available in SS stream header, and we are going to use this. Is similar to what we can achieve using a file stream, only that this one is not involving file, but now we are using our string and processing it as a stream in similar way as we get values from the file or from the input output stream. So let's just look at how we can use string stream to get or to use getline. Before we start, we've been using, I think we've demonstrated the getline before. We've been using getline, but the most important part to know is that getline will take the whole line from our file or any line that we have been given by default, and the line is determined by the end of line is determined by the /n at the end. So if it does not find this, then it will consider the whole that as one line. So if we have something like and something, then it will know that these are two lines from our data set, from our file, because there is a hidden /n at the end here and here. And of course we can also supply /n if we are using a string in our program ourselves. So this is what we are going to have, and firstly I'm going to demonstrate to you how we can use getline, but not to get the whole line, but just a portion of it, separated by what we call delimiters. So instead of using a /n as a delimiter, we are going to use other delimiters so that we can get a portion of a line and not the whole line. Here is our program that we are going to use to demonstrate the same. First of all, we have added this in our program as a header SS stream, and this stream has got this as a data type stream, which we can use to declare our variable. You remember this one is similar to what we've been using like for input file stream. We've been using something like this, for example, and we will specify the file name. So in similar way, we are also having string stream. Then we give the name of the stream we want to declare. In our case, it's a line. Then we specify the stream. Instead of a file name, our stream is coming from a string, and we have defined our string here, which is in data. So we are taking that and pushing it or declaring a string that should point to that or connect to that, and we can process this string as a stream. Okay, so that's what we have. Our ultimate goal of this program is to actually read this string, split it, getting the values separated by colon, and assigning those values into a structure. So here is our structure. We have ID, first name, surname, sex, and grade, and ID and the grade are integers. Our strings, as we're going to be processing them and using getline function, will always be handled as strings, and we are going to be getting these parts as strings. But yet we need to assign some parts like the first part and the last part into integer data type, into integer attribute. So we are going to see how we can achieve that. But for now, let's just look at how we can actually break this one into a string, and how we can read a portion of this delimited by a colon in our case. So here we have our string, and we have defined our stream here, and we want to be getting a field by field. So this is a variable that will help us to read field by field. So I've just given it a variable name of field. Then we have a delimiter. I've declared this one as our delimiter. Of course, you can use it directly into a get line, but I want it to be declared so that we can change whenever we want to change, and should have only one place of change. Okay, so here we have our stream and our data is connected. We can read our first part of the data, and this will be done using getline. So getline as well as the stream are all available in a standard input out, in a namespace std. So getline, and this getline function requires a stream as a first parameter or first argument. So our stream is line, and the second one requires the variable, a string variable that should actually store the portion that has been read. So we'll be reading a portion separated by colon, and we'll be keeping that in the field or in the variable field. And the last one, we specify the delimiter, and in our case we have defined our delimiter as this. So executing this one once, or having this line like this, is going to read the first one and keep that one into the string variable field, and we can of course display this one. We can maybe display this one as id. We can display that one id. We just say field. So we try this one first before we go further with our presentation. So here we can see that we have now id1 is able to read that, and we can also repeat this statement to read the next data. So we can repeat this statement and we'll be able to read the next one, but now the next one is going to be first name, and we can run this one. id1 first name Katie. So we are able to get values separated by colon. We are able to get values separated by colon, but that's not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to get these values and put them into our structure. So we need to define a structure, and we need to find a way of assigning those values into a structure. For now, we just need to define a structure. We can have, maybe we can just define our structure up here. We can just define a structure of student, and once we've read our data, we need to assign that data into a structure variable. Like in this case, we need, instead of displaying, we want to assign this one into id. So this will be field. So we have our id there. We can repeat these things. Okay, let's be going slowly. So this one now would be first name, and we are getting another part here, first name, and we assign first name there. Then surname here, we take that one and put it under surname. Then we have sex here. We get sex. I'll get our next value and have it as sex. Then finally we have grade, and we get our value and we get it as grade there. We have one problem here. The data type for id, stid, and the data type for grade, stgrade, are integers. So this may not work for id, which are integers, or the attributes which are integers, because we are getting our data as a stream of characters or as string. So the field we are assigning here, this field is a string. Unfortunately, we cannot use integer here. It requires a string. So what we need to do is to find a way of how we can convert this field into an integer for us to assign it properly here. Because if we try to compile our program, we're going to have a problem here. The data type conversion is not possible. So we need to find a better way of doing that, and how we are going to do that for the first field and the last field, we are also going to use the string stream. We're going to create a string stream which actually gets a stream, which in our case will be the field, as an input, and we are going to stream it out into a certain variable which will be of data type integer, and by doing so that will be converted, or we are going to have it converted. So here what we need to do is to define another string stream, and we are just going to call it an ID, and or ID stream, but let me just have it as an ID, and we are going to have field as an input for this one. Then we are going to use now an ID which has been declared here, of course, maybe to make it look like we can just have it as an ID stream, to make sure that we don't maybe confuse it with others. So this ID stream, we can now stream it into our ID field. So we needed to have something like this added here. So take note of what we have done here. The same applies also to the last field. So this one, we need to have the grade field as a stream. Then we can stream that grade into st grade. So with this we'll be able to have the number converted directly. So when we are streaming it into, it will be converted into that data type. Let's try to compile this one. So our program was compiled successfully. Finally, we just wanted to show you that what we've done, what been captured here, are actually correctly done by displaying what we have in our structure. So here finally we just have say out, maybe we can have ID, then we specify our ID as st.id, and we can have NL. Then the same should actually happen for the next. Okay, yeah, so for all fields we just want to check what we have, and this will be first name, surname, and here we have sex, and we have finally grade. We want to see if we have correct data assigned to our fields. Okay, so let's try to run our program. If we run our program, this is what we are getting. So as we see, we have correct data. We have first name Ketwe, then surname Banda, female, then grade 68. So we are able to have our data now. We are able to get the first one as integer and the last one as integer. So this is I think a trick that we can also apply even when we are working with files, because instead of getting this from a string like this one, we can have this from a file, and instead of using string stream, in our case we are using input stream for a file, or output stream. So when we are using input stream, then we'll be able to have a line by line read, and we can have that line maybe from our input file formatted this way. Then we can use this delimiter. The delimiter can be a colon, can be a comma, can be anything, can be semicolon. The default one being using space in our program, but we can use any delimiter to separate the fields. So thank you for your time, and I think this should help you in coming up with a better assignment. I will have more demonstration, probably demonstrating how we can process data from the file using the same string, data which is composed of strings as well as maybe integer or other data types. So we want to use the power of string stream to get our data from one data type into another. Thank you. See you in the next video.